socks in the house?
When it's winter, yeah, hell yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. For winter, okay. You're okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tile out there, you know?
It's true. There's mostly carpet. We're mostly a carpet family, you know? Except for the kitchen, which is tile.
Can you imagine?
Carpet
Is your
in the
bathroom
kitchen.
tile?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I've seen people on like TV shows with carpet in the bathroom.
How do you feel about carpet in the toilet?
Did you say in the toilet?
In the toilet. Like
As
the
in,
bowl, the internal bowl is carpeted.
We're beyond the point where this is a thing, right?
No, that's a real thing. JC sent me pictures about it.
Okay, but JC finds weird stuff on the internet that's not really applicable to most people. You know?
Yeah. That's fair enough.
Anyway, we're talking. So you wanna fucking introduce it at some point? We should probably. Yeah. So okay, like 30 more seconds, and then we should introduce it.
You don't want to do the toilet as the intro?
No, I don't like especially if we're gonna cold open. I don't want it to be on a carpeted toilet. You know.
Fair enough. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 31 of Patch Notes, the Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, I am Joseph, and today is Monday, May 25th, 2020. It's 5:32 p.m. It's 92 degrees outside. It's really nice. I actually don't know the temperature. I guessed it. But I guess.
It's probably not 90. It's 91. Jesus.
Hey, hey.
Yeah, it's actually a good, it's been a really mild summer so far. Just putting that out there.
It's not even summer yet, though. But it has been nicer than it should be at this point in the year.
But let me show you. Hold on a second. Let me show you my tan real quick. Okay, so like brown.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That is. Let's check this out.
Don't
blinding.
Yeah, that's actually like objectively hurtful.
Yeah, it's very white arms.
You ready to hop into home game stuff?
Oh God, I don't have my notes, but I remember.
Okay, I have this.
Yeah, home game stuff.
Would you like to start?
Yeah, so very quickly, I don't have a whole lot this week, but basically I'm still going on shapes. I'm going to, for the first time ever, put an image in the video. Home games first on episode 31. But basically it's the current predicament that I have. So I'm able to draw lines, like I've mentioned before, or I think I wasn't able to last week, but I wanted to get lines working. So I got lines. I have my polygons still working like always. And then the arc/circle stuff, I temporarily switched from arc 2 to arc, trying to see if I can do something else with math to figure out whatever. Basically came to this realization that I have no clue how to do what I want to do, because it's like everything requires a radius. So if I'm like basically drawing a part of a circle, think about like a rectangle, right? Like a this way rectangle. If I wanted to draw an arc from the top center point to the left center point, what's the radius of that circle? It's not consistent. It's not a circle. It's actually a bunch of partial circles.
Yeah.
What do I do? You know what I mean? Like, do I call arc 2 like a billion times to do little things? I don't know. But I sent the image. It's in your Discord. I didn't link it in the doc, but I have it working for like the first. If you're going clockwise, like for the first quarter, like the 0 to 3 of a circle, I have that arc thing just fine, and it does the like line out to the corner, and then it kind of curves in to hit that other point, and it does it for that one quarter. If I want to continue and do from that little thing to the 6 o'clock, totally cannot do it. So that's what that is there. Like I have the lines going from the top and the center to like debug, basically, like if this is the triangle and the hypotenuse and I want to arc on the hypotenuse or whatever, just to kind of give a visual thing of what's going on there. But I cannot figure it out. That was like 30 minutes ago where I just took that screenshot and was like, instead of getting everything working for this episode, I'm going to get a screenshot of how this thing is broken and then put it up probably here. So here in the video I will put up the thing, and that's what it looks like. So, yeah, go ahead.
So, sorry, I've a couple questions. First question, joke question. Do you ever think you'd be using the Pythagorean theorem while coding when you were learning it in middle school?
No, I did not, but I've actually used it a few times in my professional career, which is pretty odd. So it's one of those things that's actually good to remember.
True.
Yeah.
So, on the top one seems to be like well arced. No,
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
Sorry, go ahead.
I used the same math, like the same method of doing both, but for whatever reason, on that second arc, it's totally busted. And it's because for the arc 2, I'm setting a radius, and the radius is in the first arcs of the circle, whatever. I believe it's the y difference. So it's the difference, just the height, and from the top point to the this point over here. So it's just this value, and that's what the radius is. And for some reason, it like drew it just fine, even though it like should have come up short, because in the second one it's coming up short because I'm doing the shorter radius, or the shorter value for the radius too, the x and y diff. So it's like the same math for both, and I do not know what's going on, like, at all. So this is one of those fun math bugs or something bugs, but yeah, little not where I want to be on that whole thing, but it's going. And maybe, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm going to do if I can't figure this out. It's one of those things where, like, you're providing estimates and how long something is going to take, and you realize that you don't know how to draw circles, and then you realize that you never really understood math in the first place. What's an arc cosine again? That kind of stuff. And you're just like, okay, maybe I don't know how to do anything. So that's where I'm at right now. Also, I apologize for the hair. It's been 4 months. Can't do much about this.
Look at this. I'm with you right here, Larry. If I put my mustache on your face, it would complete your look and would clean me up like pretty significantly.
I can't imagine the kind of vibe I would give off if I had your facial hair, because I feel like I have a vibe if I walk in the room. You're like, oh, he's kind of just there, kind of maybe friendly. I don't know, but like if we put on that kind of severe facial hair, what would I look like to people?
You'd look like you lived in a basement. All the lights were off all the time, and you did nothing but hack into Twitter user accounts and tweeted about how great you were.
It's kind of what I do now, but good to know. We should give this a shot one day when I can actually grow facial hair, or if I hit 30 and I still can't, we'll probably just like cut all the ears off and glue it to my face to kind of do the experiment without really doing it.
Low key, there's actually a really nice thing about having facial hair, and it's that if you drink like orange juice or something, your mustache soaks up the flavor a little bit, and then you get to like get a second.
That's gross. Is that what people say, like flavor saver? Some people call it little mustaches, right?
Yeah. It's a little flavor saver because mine like goes over my upper lip now. Like it's long. It's bad. I'm gonna wait like 2 or 3 weeks from this point because like Arizona's open for people who don't know, and then just like see if things like go downhill or like like start to improve or whatever. And then I want to go to a barber who does haircuts and shaves. I want to be like, take care of this. And I want to just be like, one day just go in like looking like Sasquatch and come out looking like a regular human again. Be great.
Yeah.
But speaking of Twitter.
Oh yeah, very nice.
Twitter stuff. Yeah. So I did some more work on the Twitter integration. I found out from actually your most recent tweet that by default, Twitter does not give you the whole tweet. It gives you a truncated version. And then after reading their docs, which are completely useless, and then eventually just finding a Stack Overflow article where somebody was like, asked the same question. They were like, just put this in your query string. And I was like, okay. And then I did it and it worked. And I was like, fantastic. We're good now. So all that's working. I can now display a twit. There are... Go ahead.
So... Was that the Gears of War tweet that you're referring to?
Yes.
I tweeted that for you because I was like, okay,
Thank you.
Yazeed said I don't tweet often.
You don't.
I'm going to put an image in this so he could test that a little bit. And then I'm going to put like significant text. So you're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to probably remove any images in them for right now because I feel like that would be cheating. But
for the who tweeted that?
Yeah.
If it's like a selfie or something, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I did find a couple of things. So the first thing I found was, maybe I'm just doing it wrong, but text in game nodes aren't displaying all the ASCII characters properly. So like there's an apostrophe in there to make up the word can't, and it just puts two square brackets in the place of the apostrophe. Do you know off the top of your head, or should I just start digging in and see how that's all rendered out?
I do not know why that is. I could have sworn I've had apostrophes in text before, but maybe not.
It could also be Unicode. I don't know how Twitter sends it back to us. Because if it's like a Unicode special boy apostrophe, maybe.
Yeah. We might have to convert it to something on our side if we do that. But, yeah, I don't really know. That'll probably be easier for me to debug than you. But if you want to get familiar with how that stuff works, then that would be fun, I guess. If you think it'd be fun, go for it.
Well, maybe it'll tie in with a couple other things that I wanted to bring up too. So one of the things that I ran into was actually that the text field part of a game node constructor, that position is absolute to the page as opposed to an offset from the node that it's positioned in. So I guess my question is, why does it take a position if it's an absolute position? Shouldn't it take an offset from the current position?
You're talking what's missing? I missed the first part.
Sorry. So in when you're putting a text in a game node, for example, right? You now have 3 XY coordinates, right? So your first XY coordinate is your position. Your second XY coordinate is your size, so your end position. And then your third Y coordinate is where the text is placed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but that text placement coordinate is absolute to the entire base as opposed to an offset from the position on the board. That seems a little odd to me.
Yeah, that's intentional. That's because the idea was you might want to have, it was really like a limitation, I guess, of game nodes, but if I want to say have a background that only takes up 50% of the screen, I don't know. Anyway, just in a simple way, not every game node has text that is contained only within its boundary. The idea became like, oh, well, I need to have text on here, but maybe the text shouldn't be directly associated with the size and position of its, like, I don't even know what you call the game node in that case. It's really just the way that the text gets there. It's not really a game node. Mm-hmm. But when I was using game node for everything, in which we still are, then instead of having to, and you'd have to do like the more tricky math of like, oh, well, this text is a part of something else, so then 50% of the 0 point of this, which was 50%, is actually 75. Like, instead of having to do all that kind of stuff, because then it's like, oh, I want this text to be, maybe half outside of my box. Am I giving it a negative value? Well, then there's a whole thing to like support negative values in Homegames number stuff, which we don't at the moment. So it was kind of just like a lot of reasons, but yeah, basically that value is absolute, just like every game node is. Because we can also take it to that, like, you can also take that logic and apply it to game nodes and say, okay, well, if I have a thing that's at 0, 0, then I have a child of it that's at 50, 50. If I replace, like, I could make that 50, 50 relative to its parent as well. And then if I move the background to like 10, 10, everything else within it moves as well, which maybe makes sense, but you know what I mean? Like, I think it just makes more sense to have the position of everything be absolute in case anybody wants to try anything or do something fancy that we're not currently thinking of.
Okay, so then I guess my next thing was I was thinking about it while I was trying to figure out why the heck my text wasn't showing up, because I was doing like 5, 5 to try to position it, like just like 5 in from there, and I was like, why isn't this showing up? What is this third thing anyway? And then I went through it and I was like, oh, okay, this is positioned relative to the whole board. Would it be helpful to add something like JS docs to the project?
Yeah, it would be helpful. I don't write documentation because it's like the most boring thing I can do. So I'm not documenting. We've talked about this. I'm not documenting anything yet because everything, like, even from what's in master right now to what I'm gonna pull requests for, like everything is different. And I don't want to have to go rewrite docs because no one's using this except for us. So it's like, I just tell you.
I see. Okay, I mean that makes sense. I was just curious if maybe that would be a helpful thing, or like some documentation on what the arguments were. Because the first thing I ran into, I was like, what is this? What does this take even? That took me a while to find an example that used the text. So yeah, I don't know. Because the other option is to maybe use TypeScript, which is typed. So when you're defining like what arguments it takes in, you define what type they are too. So for that one, you define like there's a text field, there's an X and a Y position.
Yeah, but still, it's like, does that actually look at everything within objects? Like instead of saying this is an object.
When you define, you can define it as the joke. Whenever anyone says that they're working in TypeScript, is that they're just define everything as any, which is basically just like whatever it is, which is basically just vanilla JavaScript.
Yeah.
But you can describe like what each component in an object is typed as, even down to like if there's an object contained inside of there, or an array, what is that array made up of? The one thing that it does prevent, though, is it does get rid of heterogeneous arrays, which for people who don't know, that means that you in TypeScript, unless you describe your array as an any array, you can't type it as two things as far as I know. So you couldn't have an array that was made both like strings and integers, or arrays and objects inside of an array.
I've been wanting to learn about TypeScript lately, but I just haven't. But I don't know if I want to integrate it with this or what, because still you'd have the problem of, like, knowing something is an object that takes two integers, X and Y, still doesn't tell you what that does, you know?
No, but it would tell you what arguments to put in there, which is something that I ran into when I was doing the text thing. I was like, is this just a string? The answer was no. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, but if you're at that point of like reading code, I mean, to me, it's just grep the function name, and then look at them. Like that's it's not great, but it's something.
Yeah, I mean, true. It doesn't really tell you what it's used for, which is where something like JS docs would come in, or like a similar documentation tool would come in. But yeah, I don't know. I was just putting those two options out there. Maybe I professionally use TypeScript, and it's okay.
Yeah. I
like dynamically typed languages more than I like strictly typed, so I'm actually kind of morally opposed to TypeScript, but I'll work in it.
I'm kind of the opposite, I think, but that's why I like to escape from it with JS, because like when you're writing something real, like doing say a job, you have to think about things in a way where even if it's not if it's not a strictly typed or whatever language, like say for example Python, you still want to have your types consistent across the board. Having a string when you're expecting an int is just like not a good thing. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have a mindset when writing anything that's serious of like everything here is the same, whatever. I have to be really strict about how I treat whatever, even if there's nothing helping. Mm-hmm. But in JavaScript, it's like, I don't know, string plus number, you get it. You know, it's like I just want to. It's like my escape. But yeah, I guess I would like to look into TypeScript, like I mentioned. So that'd be cool to see. But I don't know if that solves the actual documentation problem, because we just don't have documentation. Like at the end of the day, there's no clear way to understand how to build a game unless you look at a previous game. You just copy it and you adapt to it.
I mean, that's I think probably what we talked about with like a create app, like create game script, like. For people who work in React, it's like a create React app, which is like a node, like an npm command. Thank you. It's an npm command that you can run. You can just do like npm create React app and then name it, and then it gives you your like basics. We could maybe do something similar with Homegames. We like create new game and then the name of your game, and it builds out the like skeleton for you. So it gives you the functions that you really need to have, and maybe we could include comments in there of like what it takes in and what it works with.
Yeah.
And then partly when you put your PR out, we expect those comments to be gone or changed in a meaningful way.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I guess there's just like so much dependent on us. It's like every time we think about any improvement, documentation, for example, is like, I'm not going to do that anytime soon, you know? One day.
Yeah.
One day.
One day. Love JS. Well, I'm going to look into JS docs. I know it's a... Shoot. I know it's a thingy. A dependent... Sorry, I'm like super out of it today. But there's a dependency that we would add into the project. But part of JS docs is that it can auto-generate documentation for you based on the arguments. And then we could modify it from there.
But if a robot is able to write documentation, then it's not really valuable, you know?
Pretty much it just gives you your arguments, and it's helpful for people who use something like VS Code because it gives you. And then, sorry, when I said it generates it just gives you like the argument list and then the return type, and then we would go through and be like what each argument is for, pretty much. And it's like we would go through and like define like the actual helpful part of the documentation, but it does give us like the skeleton to build all of it, so it doesn't become it's not as tedious.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've only used, technically we professionally use it, functionally no one ever updates it, so like most of the ones that are there are just there and haven't been touched in a while, because it's kind of like a similar problem to what we talked about, which is just like a rapid development issue where sometimes we'll just be like working quick, changing a function here. Oh, we didn't change documentation, but no one reads the documentation anyway. So, but yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to put those two ideas out there since they might help newer people who don't know where to look for stuff.
Yeah. In my mind, I know that we've like launched in the sense that we've told people that this exists, but really, this is not there. I don't know what there is, but it's not there, you know? So at a certain point in the future, there will be something that we can point to and say a person, just somebody, maybe to the point where I can say, here's what Homegames is, and maybe make like a 60-second ad for it, and then actually sell someone on something in it, a showcase game, something. When we get to that point, it should be like, here's documentation for all of our functions. Here's documentation for the way that this tree is structured. Here's documentation for the way that the canvas rendering, all of this stuff. And like I know I said maybe 6 months ago that none of this stuff is like really going to change that dramatically, and it's really not dramatically changing. The way that everything works is still the same way. But there's still some like gaps, fundamental gaps, like things like, oh, we can't draw shapes, which is what I'm trying to figure out right now. Stuff like that I think we just kind of have to figure out that we need, and then get it in, and then at that point we can say like, okay, people should be able to reasonably figure out how to do this without us helping them. But at this point, I don't think like adding so much investment into that whole type of work of like maintenance and documentation and making everything like easy to get into, I don't think that's like the thing quite yet. But I don't really know. Maybe I'll change my mind eventually or something. But at the moment, I don't think that.
There probably will be a tipping point where it's like we're not building fundamental pieces anymore, and we're modifying fundamental pieces. And that'll probably be when we start to put more emphasis on documentation.
Yeah, but then even at that point, it's like, okay, Homegames can do all these different things. Well, we want it to do this other thing, and like at a certain point, we'll become the R&D team, like we talked about last week, the week before. Where we're like, how would we do 3D in Homegames, for example?
I swear, I hope we don't actually break it down like I broke it down, because like when you start out as your bottom rung, it's the worst job possible. Your job is to review PRs and approve or deny them.
That's fun for some people, you know. It's good experience for people to see what that process is like, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. And then I have a question for you, actually.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this before, giving users the ability to change their... What door is that?
What? That door? I don't know. You live in your house, bud.
I don't know either. Is that into the dead room?
No, because that's down the other hallway.
Interesting. I'll figure this out afterwards. I've never noticed that there's a door across the room from me, but okay. I think that might be the bathroom door, which is open, which is not ideal. But anyway, I know we talked about this before, but giving play. Sorry, I just totally distracted myself. But giving players the ability to change their name. Do we implement that, or is that still to be implemented?
I remember that's in the thing where I've been working on 2,000 lines of code changes. That's in my branch. Homegames.
All right. Because the problem is that I need a way to take in information from the front end, and I don't know anywhere where we do that currently, or if we can do that with what's currently in master.
When you say information from the front end, what do you mean?
I need people to put in their Twitter handle in order for my game to work.
Well, that's in my text input too, which again is in my branch of.
Yeah, that's what I was asking you about. I was like, where is that? And could you put out a PR that just implements that?
That's what I talked about last week. I was going to split everything up into PRs, but the problem is that I'm still one man, so I can't like have things to talk about on the podcast and split everything into PRs. But yeah, I'll do that eventually.
Well, so the problem is that blocks me then.
Okay.
So if you maybe just put out the full PR and tell me to look, where to look,
you can get it from the pretty branch. You can get it from the pretty branch.
Oh, is it?
Everything's in there, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. I'll have separate PRs because Homegames is its own thing. It's already done. It's already there, and everything else. I've been banging my head against circles for 3 weeks and I hate it so much. So yeah. Anyway, I'll split that stuff up.
Thank you. I don't read any of the other pieces because I haven't done my actual work. I'm literally just playing with Twitter integration, so it's like I'm stupid. But
a friend of mine said that he recently tried to pull master and that it didn't work. He had like a squisher problem or a squish, and I was like, oh, maybe that's a dependency issue of the whatever. But I just tested today and I pulled master from both and just ran them and it totally worked. So
did he not build? Maybe
it would just be an npm install and webpack on the web app. Anyway, I don't know. I'll ask him what his thing was, but I couldn't reproduce. So I don't know.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if you can get that, I'd appreciate, because then I can do my next step. Because basically, what I need people to do is two things. The first person who joins the lobby, I need to get their Twitter API key and stuff, so that I can get their token, and then from that person I need to get their Twitter handle, and then everybody else who joins I need to get their Twitter handle as well.
Why would you?
And I figured it might give them like a button that says like add in randos. So if somebody wanted to add in like, I don't know, Elon Musk or Joe Rogan on their Twitter.
Wouldn't it be the same thing? You're just giving them an ad name. If it's like, what's your Twitter handle? Who's saying that's actually my Twitter handle? Unless I'm logging in, but I don't think that works.
No. I mean, I mean, you can. Well, sorry. The way I imagined it was like everyone who's gonna play had a Twitter handle. So like, say 4 people were playing, but then they wanted to like up the difficulty. They could just add in more people on top of the 4, so they could be like throw in some people into the mix to really mess with them. So they could add in like, say like me, JC, and Alex were playing, but then in order to like muddy the waters a little bit, I add in you to the game. Like you aren't playing, but I just added in you to like to possibly pull your tweets in.
Yeah, I'm just confirming that from the user's perspective, it's the same like thing. There's no restriction. Like, for example, if I have a private Twitter account, I just can't put my tweets in there because I can't log in through this app.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can, then anyway, whatever. Like, you can't see private tweets.
Oh, that's an interesting question. What happens to private tweets?
Because I would imagine it's from a public HTTP API. So in that case, it wouldn't give you someone whose tweets are protected unless you're logged in as a follower.
Interesting. I don't know the answer to that, but that's a good point.
And then you said that you needed the input stuff for the person's API key. Why would we need API keys through the UI?
So that we don't have to put one in the backend, and people don't need to like. The way I imagined it was that not everyone. Sorry, the way I figured it would work is like we're all gonna go to Yazeed's house, so Yazeed's gonna set it up. So I would put in my API key, so that we can just that way when everybody just puts in their Twitter handles, like it just starts to work at that point.
Yeah, but I think
the other option is that we could have an optional like .env file, like a secrets file that you could put your stuff into, and we would read from there. That's what we were talking about with Pico de Gallo stuff. Like we could have that, and then we could have our own secrets file so that Pico de Gallo can work, so we can demo it.
Yeah.
But the other option is if there isn't an env file that contains your Twitter API key and password, or your key and secret, then I would fall back to just request, like asking you to type it in basically, or copy and paste it in.
So that's like a secret key though, right?
Yeah.
I guess I don't like the idea of someone putting in, even though, there's no real security, whatever. I mean, maybe there is because someone's doing that over the local network and it's not secured. So you could see someone's someone's private API key over the network if you're like running Wireshark on their Wi-Fi. But I mean,
but you could do that.
Yeah, and it's not a good. I guess it's just like not a good practice to do. So in my mind, it might be, if I have a hard time imagining someone has a Twitter API key that they want to integrate with Homegames into whatever, but they don't have the ability to put that in text and hit like a different button to build different. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean they could. I was just giving them the option if they don't want to have it in. Like if say like everyone's coming to my house. But if everyone's going to like JC's house, and I wouldn't want to put an env file on his computer, you know what I mean?
If we're going to
JC's house, who's going to host the party, we want to play Homegames, but he doesn't have a Twitter developer key. I do. I might not want to put an env file on his computer to make it run.
So then I email it to myself and copy and paste it or something?
No, you can log into Twitter's like your developer Twitter account and grab your keys off there and just copy and paste them in.
So it's hey JC, let me log into Twitter on your computer, and then I'm gonna be the first one to connect to this game, and then when it gives me this text box, I'm gonna paste this in, and then all of you guys connect.
Yeah,
that just sounds janky. Because I imagine if it was like, oh, JC's hosting, but he has no clue what he's doing, be like, well, he should probably get a clue what he's doing, or I could take my laptop because I have the API key. Like, I'll take the laptop. I'm the Homegames dude or whatever.
Right. See, the problem with that is, like, I don't have a laptop that I would take. I only have my desktop. So, like, for me, I would go and just be like, let me just set this up for you. Don't worry.
But then you still have the problem.
Or I would just log in on my phone to get the key, and I would just type it in.
You still have the problem of over an unsecure WebSocket, you're sending someone's private API key, which is not ideal.
Is that any different than reading it off of the secrets file?
Yeah, because there's no network activity to snoop on. It's just someone reading it off of it's just reading it off of the file.
Request out?
Well, the server making the HTTP request out is totally fine because that's an HTTPS request, like you said. But from a client talking to the WebSocket server on the Homegames network, in that packet, there is a full plain text, basically API key, where someone with like the most basic knowledge of like even downloading Wireshark and getting like having some weirdo at a party just snooping on all everything and getting that kind of stuff out of the log is like not a good look. Because think about a party with more than like 5 people, you don't know everybody there. I know one person in particular that we went to high school with who would be like a problem at this party if we had that available. So yeah, I guess I'm just really iffy on that.
Yeah, I mean, like, we can workshop it a little bit. Regardless of reading in their key, I do need to read in their Twitter handles.
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
So, whatever we end up dealing with, like, the security side of things, like, maybe we run a encrypt-decrypt on it, or something like this.
So not SSL, but we basically do the whole thing ourselves. But then we have service. There's crypto which is built into Node, and we would just maybe hand each player their crypto key when they log in. When they like connect to a game, they get a crypto. Like, right, every new player gets their crypto key as part of their player ID. Yeah, and then we send that back. Like, we encrypt, and then the server would know their key, and then so it would just decrypt. So how would they encrypt it on the client side then to send it back over?
When the client side has the crypto key, like when the player puts it in, we would encrypt that message to send. So we'd have like an encrypt that we can send.
So I guess I don't understand encryption at all. But in my head, if someone's able to consistently encrypt something on the client with some like not password, and we have to tell the client what that password thing is, then anybody could still get it. And because the crypto library is just give me something, apply this thing to this thing.
I don't remember either. I don't remember how the crypto library is set up. I would have to take a look at it. I literally have. That's just like from the vague memories I have from how I use it at work, which may or may not be correct even anymore. So
yeah, I don't know.
We might have like moved away from the crypto library and into something else. So I'm not really sure if we even use it anymore. But if I remember right, you can get crypto to encrypt on the client side and then decrypt on the server side.
But if that makes sense. But I would assume that they both have to share some sort of common, like kind of like a
identifying
API.
key.
Yeah. And if you have that, then and you have to tell the client that, then it would still be not secure.
Yeah, I don't remember how that's all works. Maybe we do have to send like a key across, and then crypto encrypts, and then it decrypts on the other side with the key. Or maybe there's like a 2-key pairing, so the crypto figures it out. I don't really know. I'll take a look at it though, and I'll answer that. But like you said, like the optimal solution is just people use a secrets file that contains that information. Because I imagine if we work with other integrations or something like that, it becomes easier to just have a secrets file that you have on like a flash drive or something that you can bring around and slap wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, if you're like that kind of a weirdo that still walks around with like a USB key on your key ring. And you're that dude that has like your Homegames.n just ready to go, at any party that you show up to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as a general practice, we should probably not allow the clients to tell the Homegames server anything that is private at all, because it's all an unsecured thing at the moment.
Yeah, I'll take a look at seeing if maybe crypto can give us some leverage there, but if not, I'm not sure. Because I think after crypto is straight up just like node packages. And I think they're heavy and require like a bunch of other smaller like sub-dependencies.
Well, I just think the core problem with encryption, again, I don't know anything, but the core problem with encryption is if the client needs to be able to encrypt something, then the client needs to be able to know the value to encrypt with. The whatever key phrase, whatever the thing is that it's using to encrypt something, that the server also knows to decrypt with. But if the client's going to know anything, it has to know it from the server. And if it's from the server, it's unsecure. So it's kind of like I whisper to you the password, and then I'm like, hey, what's the password? It's just like, it's Peanuts 01. So I don't know. I don't know anything about anything. Full disclaimer, I don't know anything really. But that's my understanding. But we'll follow up on how that works, because I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But like I said, I'll do some research this week, and I'll let you know my findings.
Great. R&D department, Yazeed over here, putting in the hours.
Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about for Homegames?
No. I don't think I have anything in my notes, right?
No. You have lines, dots, question mark?
Dots, question mark. So a dot, you can't draw dots. A dot is really a rectangle, because if it's like a 1x1 thing, which is a pixel, that's a square. And then that kind of broke my head when I thought about drawing lines, because a line is also a rectangle. It's a
rectangle with one width.
Yeah, but that's it's a 1 pixel width rectangle, which is kind of a weird thing. But I realized that we do need to have something different, just because, like I mentioned before, the whole fill thing. Should I be able to fill something or not? And in order to do something like that. Anyway, that whole thing. But yeah, shapes. I continue to be working on shapes. And it continues to be a nightmare.
Yeah, so you have lines, rectangles, dots, a bad word, circles, and then under that is image.
Yeah. Oh, and then image, because I put up the image. Yeah, so that's everything for me for Homegames.
Cool. You ready to move on to what's up then?
What's up?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to go first? You have a lot more stuff than I do. I have a story, so I'll tell the story in the middle, maybe.
Okay. No, yeah, I wanted to work on home game stuff a lot this weekend, and I just didn't. It was I had a 4-day weekend actually. I had Friday off as well, so.
Oh, what a Mr. Fancy over here.
I know, but so I've just been chilling heavy. What did I do? I watched a lot of Food Network. Guy Fieri is on that network like 24/7, dude. It's really crazy. Hey Siri, stop.
There's nothing playing on this HomePod. You can ask me to stop everywhere or a specific room.
Just let her finish. Okay. Sorry about that. The HomePod went off. What was I saying? Oh.
Guy Fieri's everywhere.
Wait, what?
You said the last thing you said was Guy Fieri's like on 24/7 there.
Guy Fieri's on Food Network too much, but yeah, I've just been watching Food Network, and then I played a game called Equilinox. I don't know if have you seen the new Steam event thing that's happening right now?
Mm-mm.
So, to take it way back, this is I'm gonna bring it in eventually. Do you remember like years ago? I was like, hey Yazeed, wouldn't it be cool if there was something of like basically getting a bunch of advertisements of things that you already own and showcasing it to you in a way to make you excited about the things that you already have. You remember this conversation like 5 years ago?
Because you were like, I own basically every game on Steam, but I don't play any of them.
Yeah. Well, my thinking was like, oh, the new iPhone comes out every year and it always looks great. Well, what if someone just showed you the ad for the iPhone that's in your pocket? Like, would you be hyped? Would you be less hyped for the new one? Anything like that? But just like reminding you of the ad. So this is not that, but it's kind of in the vein of that. It reminded me of that because Steam, their whole current event is their like spring cleaning event. So there's like these 6 or 7 categories of just things. And you click into them and it recommends you 3 different games that are in your library to just play. And it's like, here's games that our AI thinks that you would like. Here's games that you used to be really into but you haven't played lately. Here's the first 3 games you ever bought on Steam. And like all that kind of stuff. And it brings them to you and you play them. And if you play them, you get a challenge. Or you get a badge towards a challenge or whatever, right? You know how they do the badges every time they have an event. So instead of selling you games at this point, which is the summer sale, that's going to happen. But right now, they're just like, hey, remember these games, and they're rewarding you kind of for playing them. So one of the games recommended to me was Equilinox, which is a game that's been in my library, I guess, for years. Excuse me. And it's like a sim game, kind of. It's like a really relaxing... you start off with this land, and then you start growing grass. And then when you start growing grass, you can start planting trees. And then when you start planting trees, you can start introducing animals into this like ecosystem that you build. Mm-hmm. So the genetics of stuff can change over time. So there could be like mutations in trees or animals or anything that you can then kind of like say, oh, I want this thing to breed more. So then it makes more like that weird thing or whatever. And then you can go down certain evolution trees and say this sheep is going to evolve into a boar. But in order for it to be a boar, it needs to have access to fruit. In order to have access to fruit, it needs this apple tree. Well, if I want an apple tree, I have to evolve the oak tree. If I want to evolve the oak tree, then I have to have a certain level of like percentage of forest biome or whatever. And you have all these like numbers to whatever, and it makes like this dependency tree. If I want this, I need this. But it's all presented in this very like there's no challenge, there's no enemy, there's no anything. It's just you just progress. And you get resource points for all like the living animals that you have. So I have like a bunch of trout, and I have a bunch of chickens, and a bunch of sheep, and they all give me these points, which I then use to invest into my like earth. I add more trees, and I add more grass, and I add more whatever else. I add more rocks because the chickens like rocks, and it's like this very it's very relaxing just like thing. I spent like 3 hours yesterday playing this game, just because of Steam recommending it to me, which I thought was really awesome. I seriously, I have 1,100 games on Steam, and it's like ridiculous, and it seriously stresses me out sometimes. Where I'm like, finally, I get to see, like, I get to do something that I want to do. And you look at the things that you could be doing, and that you'll never do, and you're just like overwhelmed with all these things. It's like, oh god, hundreds of video games that take hours to complete each, and
yeah.
I just spent hours playing Equilinox, and I got lost in it, and I thought it was super awesome. I love that game. Like it just hit right at the right moment, you know?
Nice. I'm glad you found a game that's chill that you really enjoy.
Yeah. Those chickens, they keep dying. I don't know. They need wheat, and they keep eating all of my wheat, and then the wheat doesn't make it in the environment, and I don't know why. It keeps dying.
You need more wheat, dog.
But I keep planting more wheat, and then it all just goes away. And it's like, oh, all this resource point's gone, you know? I could have invested that into, like, daisies to unlock. Because there are challenges. You get challenges for having certain numbers of satisfaction of certain things, or having a certain quantity of certain things, or whatever. But that game is great. I've been very stressed out lately. I have a lot of stuff going on in life outside of this, but, like, yeah, that game is awesome. Highly recommend it. Equilinox.
Nice. It sounds really chill. The only game I've been playing lately is Empires of the Undergrowth, which is just my ant sim game, which is like my version of that. Yeah. But I beat it already because it's still like not done. So like there's no multiplayer component and there's no like invading other ant colonies yet. Yeah. Like I can basically just like pin their ants in their colony and then leave them there to like die basically as I continue to move around the map and do whatever I want. Yeah. It's like at a certain point, it's like I'm unstoppable. Yeah. But yeah.
That's how you are in full finished RTS games as well. I bought Empires of the Undergrowth on your recommendation. I haven't started it yet though, but that's somewhere on my list of things to play soon.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna like it, but if you're like Equilinox, sorry, it sounds like similar. Like not similar, but like thematically similar in that it's more like a sim where you don't have like direct control. Like you probably can't tell the chickens which wheat thing to eat. You just generally are like, eat wheat, please.
You can take individual control over units. You can. There's a button to make the sheep baa. It's pretty rad.
That's pretty sick, honestly. Can you do predators too?
I haven't unlocked any predators. I haven't evolved to any of them. My current problem is I need a certain level of forest in my. I don't know what a biome is, dude. I don't know anything. So I'm like Googling.
You don't know what a biome is?
No, explain to me what a biome is.
A biome is just like a geological location which has like similar elements. Like for example, like the Amazon rainforest is a rainforest biome. Yeah. Right? Like coastal California is a coastal biome, coastal ocean biome. Yeah. Whereas like the sea between the UK and Iceland, that's probably open ocean. That's the open ocean biome. So there's like they have like similar creatures and similar foliage, like fauna and foliage.
It's like the environmental vibe.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's the environmental vibe. That's yeah.
I have like 20, like maybe not 20,000. I have maybe 200 trees. I was about to exaggerate a lot. I have maybe 200 trees in my situation, and I'm still not at 10% forest biome. So I have no clue how it works. Maybe in this game specifically, but
you need a lot more trees apparently.
I have so many trees, and then they don't live either. But anyway, that game is rad. But nice. The ant game sounds pretty cool too. Nice. I'm trying to get more into strategy / sim stuff. I play a lot of Rudy Tooty Point and Shooty, which is like the other game I've been playing this week, Hong Kong Massacre. Hard swing from.
When I saw you playing that game, I was just like, I gotta ask.
That's like have you played Hotline Miami?
Yeah. When you described it, it sounds like Hotline Miami, but Hong Kong.
It's like Hotline Miami, but Hong Kong. Exactly. It's pretty rad. It's like not very hard, but there's these challenges on every level, and I'm the kind of person who really likes the whole, get all 3 challenge stars or whatever. So I've been playing the whole game trying to get every challenge done. The game's probably like an hour and a half long, but I've spent 3.5 hours playing it, trying to get all the challenges. So it's pretty rad. Also, have you heard of Drug Dealer Simulator? It's not on my list. But,
no.
I was playing it, and then JC was asking me some questions because he was concerned, I guess, when he saw me playing Drug Dealer Simulator. But that game is dark. It's a first-person game built with the Unreal Engine, and you buy and sell drugs to people in like a torn-down neighborhood, and it's like this weird. It's either some weird dystopian future, or it's some country that's just not the U.S. because there's police hours. And so the police are just out patrolling for anybody in public from like 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. So when you're out dealing drugs at that time, you get in super trouble. And when you're out just during the day, they can just like see you and then search you for no reason, except for the fact that you have a backpack full of drugs. But they don't know it's full of drugs. Anyway, They like search you and you get arrested and you get penalized and then you keep going, but you basically buy drugs from a dude and then you set your prices and you sell them to other people. I currently have a objective that is get 5 people addicted to your product. It's very dark. So I played it for like 2 hours and I hit this wall because I realized that just being around the police or whatever will make them suspicious of you, and they're kind of just like randomly walk around the world, and so if you just happen to find one of them, you basically just get penalized and lose everything on you, and there's not much you could do to stop it, and that really broke the game. But the idea of it was cool. I was giving people free meth, trying to get them addicted so they would be return customers. It was pretty rad. You could also cut your stuff with, like, I went to the store and bought sugar, so you can mix stuff with sugar to make the weight whatever while saving money on your cost. There's quite a bit there.
It's really incredible that game somehow made it through all the like rating system. What is that game rated? M for mature or like AO?
I don't know, dude. It's just on Steam. Do they even have? It's like they don't make that game and put it on discs. I don't know if they have to abide by those same rules. Maybe they do.
I'm pretty sure they do.
But can't you just like, what was that game that came out years ago that people were mad about? Hatred? Where it was like a mass shooting simulator?
Yeah, that game was a mass shooting simulator.
Yeah, and that game made it to Steam. It's still on Steam.
I think. Is it? I thought it got pulled temporarily.
Temporarily, but I mean, you can't. I mean, it's like we had that conversation about Homegames stuff. I think that's an awful idea and like an awful thing. But if someone made that with Homegames, they'd be like, yeah, cool, but keep it over there. But I'm not gonna say like delete it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. I am unsure about what the life of that game is.
Yeah.
I remember when it came out, I'm pretty sure it temporarily got removed from the Steam store.
I'm pretty sure I remember seeing it recently.
Advertising it on the like Steam store front, but you could still find it if you search for it, something like this.
Yeah. But I doubt that's like rated M, you know. I imagine that's AO, but I always thought AO is just for porn. So like how violent does it need to be AO and just violence, you know?
But Postal was M.
Yeah.
But that like towed the line, like you peed on people.
Yeah.
After you killed them.
Yeah.
With a shovel.
Yeah. Postal 4 is coming out. I just watched a video about that.
What?
You know,
I didn't know they came out with a second Postal even.
Postal 2 is the one I hear the most about. People apparently like Postal 2. It's always on sale for like $1.99 on Steam. Anyway. No rating system for Homegames.
No rating system.
No laws.
No laws. We're the lawless land.
Total anarchy out here.
Do you want to talk about your last point, or do you want me to talk about my story?
Oh, my last point is Joe Rogan.
It is.
Did you see that Joe Rogan has a deal now with Spotify?
Moving to Spotify.
See, so here's my theory. It was like a couple years ago that Joe Budden, a rapper, he's now a podcaster, got a big exclusive deal or whatever with Spotify. I think it was like last year. This year, Joe Rogan gets a big Spotify deal. All I'm saying is maybe next year, you know, Joe, Seth, and Yazeed get that big Spotify deal. You know, it's going to continue the Joe legacy.
I mean, you really could have just gone with they're going to hit up Joe Garcia, and that would be you.
Well, yeah, but I need to include you in there, you know. It can't be Joseph and the Yazeeds. It's got to be Joseph and Yazeed.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool that it's moving to Spotify, but I heard some possibly shady things were going around that, so I don't know. I don't want to talk about it necessarily on air, because from their subreddit, it sounds like people are a little bit butthurt about this move.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I only watch his stuff like every now and then. I just thought it was funny because it's Joe, and I go by Joseph, so maybe that's my problem.
That's kind of how I would recommend people consume Joe Rogan's podcast. I don't know anybody who can just sit and listen to every episode every day. Like he did one with Tony Hawk. I thought that one was really cool.
Yeah.
Like I just listened to like the ones I think are cool, pretty much.
Yeah, I was up until 3:30 in the morning the other night working for other reasons, and was watching Joe Rogan stuff. It's like really good noise to not pay attention to, and then you hear Tony Hawk talking about, you know, the one interesting part of like the video games, or you know, kind of his life as a 14-year-old professional, whatever. You're like, okay, I'll listen to this part, and then back to Joe Rogan talking about whatever he's talking about.
Yeah. I liked actually like when he talked about the history of skateboarding, like how skateboarding went from like pretty much like just a method of transportation then to like vert, then into street, then vert and then street again. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, he seems like a cool dude. I can't imagine being rich for that long, and still being cool when you're like 50 something, you know?
Yeah, I follow him on Twitter. He's hilarious on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who does like the whole like people mistaking me for Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Even though he is in fact Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Like my favorite one was he was going through like the TSA line at the airport. This was like before like the crackdown and stuff. And he handed over his boarding pass and he was like, "Oh, Anthony Hawk. You look kind of like Tony Hawk." And he was like, "Oh, really?" This guy was like, "Yep." And then he just did the little check mark and sent him down. And it really cracks me up.
Nice.
Like, does he think that Tony is his actual first name? Because that's funny.
That's actually the first time I've ever heard Anthony Hawk out loud. That's crazy. That's a man's name. But yeah.
That is his name. I don't know what that noise is whenever I put weight on the armrest on my chair, but I'm somewhat concerned. I'm going to break this chair.
Maybe an adjustable armrest. You might be able to pull it up and down.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Unsure. But I have a tale to tell.
Okay.
And on the offset, I want you to know that I'm not telling this story to make it seem like I'm really physically fit, even though that's going to kind of how it comes across as. That's not the point of the story. You shouldn't take that part away.
All right. Yazeed flexing, everybody. Get ready.
No, I'm not flexing, but it sounds more impressive than it actually was. Okay, so it's Wednesday. I'm taking my dog on a walk, as we do at 11 o'clock for her little bathroom break, you know, because she doesn't like to go in the backyard. And when we were going, she saw a rabbit, and she didn't pull so much as lunged for the rabbit. And when she lunged forward, I had braced because I had seen the rabbit too, and I was like, she's going to lunge. So I braced up. She lunges for this thing, but goes completely airborne while she's lunging. So she jumps for this rabbit. I'm holding her leash. She catches, and she literally just falls back onto her back, right? So I'd planted, it's like I wouldn't move anywhere. She catches, falls back onto her back, rolls over, so she's facing me, but she's really interested in eating this rabbit, and so she backs away from me. And I had still tension on the collar, and sorry, from the leash, and she slips her collar and just bolts into the desert after this rabbit. And I panicked, and I just rattled off every command I had. That she doesn't have very many, because I have to take her to obedience school still, so she doesn't have very many commands, but most of the commands are like functionality commands, right? Mm-hmm. So like, come to me, stop doing what you're doing, like wait wherever you are, like all those things. Anyway, so she tears off. I give all of her commands, and she doesn't even register any of them. She's just zigzagging after this rabbit through this desert, and I was like, this is going to end badly for one of the two of us. And then I just took off after her. So like, I'm sprinting after her, who's sprinting after a rabbit, who's sprinting wherever rabbits sprint to. And the whole time I'm shouting her name. And this whole thing is just like, we're running through the desert. Like the desert, not the like, and for like people who don't know, like Arizona's desert isn't like the Sahara. It's not like dune seas and just sand everywhere. It's like brush and cactuses,
giant rocks.
Yeah, and like big rocks and like grit and like stones and stuff like that. So it's not like an easy running on sand isn't easy, but like weaving in between like cactuses and bushes and stuff and small trees is makes it somewhat harder. Anyway, so I'm chasing her, and I'm really lucky because Wednesday was the day she finished recovering from her spay surgery. And so she really didn't have the endurance that she probably should have had at that point. And she has again now. So she ended up getting tired, and I ran her down. So she's running through the desert. I'm running through the desert. The rabbit gets away. She just stops and just starts panting eventually. And I just run up to her and just slip her collar back on. But we're in the middle of the desert. And for people who don't know, there's like a couple of things you don't want to be in the desert. And it's like in the middle of the desert without water, which is what I was. And also, I know that there's at least 3 things that live in the desert near me. And one is javelinas, which are incredibly dangerous. Coyotes, which I'm not super afraid of. But I do also know there's mountain lions out here. And I'm very not interested in running into a mountain lion. So I ended up having to slip my hand under her collar, so I didn't want to tighten it out in the desert and like fudge around with it because I hadn't hadn't had to tighten her collar like in a pinch like this before. So I just put my arm through her collar so that she couldn't slip it anymore. And I just like literally dragged her out of the desert. And yeah, and she was pretty beat up. She had a great time apparently, but she was so happy. But yeah, she didn't just have like cactus thorns in her. She legitimately had pieces of cactus in her, like chunks of cactus stuck to her. And like covered in like brush and stuff like that. And I don't own tweezers because I've never needed them. So I had to remove pieces of cactus and also cactus thorns and sticks and stuff like that from her with my hands. And she didn't enjoy that, but it was like punishment for her, I guess, in a weird way. And that's the story about how I ran down my dog on Wednesday.
That sounds intense. What a weird way to flex your physical strength and endurance. But
yeah, it was awful. I was definitely hopped up on adrenaline, but I was, like when you ever seen like people doing boot camp and like at like military boot camp, like army boot camp, and they're like running and the drill instructor's like, I don't know what I've been told, and they're like, I don't know what I've been told. It's like louder. And they're like, I don't know what I've been told. Yeah, okay, that was me and her basically. Like I was just running and just screaming her name as loud as I could, and she was not responding slightly, and then I finally got her. But yeah, if she was any faster than me, I had any less endurance, or she had any more endurance, I don't know if I'd find her again. She would have been gone, and maybe that rabbit would have been too.
Well, good. I'm glad you made it back. Glad she made it back. She seems to be quite the traviesa, quite the troublemaker.
She is a little bit, yeah. We also ran into a family of javelina, which, for people who don't know, javelina are notorious for killing dogs in Tucson. We ran into a family of them, and we were maybe like 6 feet away from them. Like I made direct eye contact with one of the mamas, and Sapphire's reaction to seeing these javelinas were like, I'll kill him myself. Don't worry about it, boss. I'll fight him right here and now. And I was like, no. But I ended up buying her a harness so she can no longer slip the collar, and that's
nice.
my tale.
Yeah.
That's the end result is that now she lives in a harness when we go walking, so that she can no longer slip the harness.
Nice. Good. Glad you're both alive.
Thank you. Yeah, that was actually like very stupid. Like thinking back about it, like just running into the desert after your dog is like one of the worst ideas anyone has ever had.
If you were out like by your house, that area is not super city like, so it's not even very suburban like. It's not very developed, I guess, at the moment. Like
yeah, well, where I was about 2K away from my house anyway. Yeah. So I was like, where she ran into was like the desert. Like there wasn't more civilization on the other side of this desert. It's like she's just running into like the Sonoran Desert.
Yeah, not a good place to be.
No, it wasn't a good place to be. I'm very happy that I got her back, and I was so mad at her. So mad, but I really, when I grabbed her, the thing I wanted to do most was just yell at her for doing something so stupid. But a couple of things she probably wouldn't understand because she's a dog, and also too, I really didn't want to draw more attention to myself than I already just did. Because if there's like, I don't know, a hungry mountain lion out there that's like, let's go check out what's going on out here.
That guy sounds delicious.
He seems an exhausted dog and an almost equally exhausted human.
Yeah.
To be like, easy pickings, and that's the last of you.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. But she can no longer run away now, and that's the goal.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else for what's up?
No, that's all for. I don't think, right? I don't see the notes, but I don't think
you don't have anything else on your notes for it.
Yeah. No.
You ready to move on to song of the week?
Song of the week.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I listened to that Maddie Noise song from last week. Pretty good. It's like not quite boring, and I mean that in a like the best way possible. Like it's just so there, you know what I mean? And like it keeps your interest, but just enough to make you like not forget it's there.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the other song I didn't like because it was so slow. It was so slow. It was like 3 minutes of just like, okay, it's so barren and empty, and then someone like there's like a wind chime like 4 miles in the back, and you're like, ambiance. But there's no like song. It just like builds and then goes away, and then builds and then goes away, and then like 3 minutes in, she like sings, and it like there's like a little bit more energy pumped into it, and like there's like a oomph when she starts to sing whatever the verse or whatever the part is. And I was like, oh, cool, and then it ended. It's like, all right, well, but it was interesting, you know. It was just a little slow for me.
Yeah, so like for me, I think that song is so barren because the subject matter for it, like it's about dealing with an old friend, like a former friend, basically.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it, I think the song is supposed to kind of like lend itself to that feeling of like how do you reconnect with an old friend, or like can you even reconnect to an old friend, I guess is like the question that song poses ultimately.
And the wind chime in the distance is like, maybe I'll look them up on Facebook, and then it comes back down and it's like, nah, they're probably busy. It's like, okay.
It kind of feels like that when I don't know, but maybe I read too much into it. Maybe it's just this hilariously empty song because it is like 5 minutes. The song is 5 minutes. It's probably like 70 words spoken total in the whole song.
Yeah, it definitely. I'm not saying it's bad. It's very much not my thing, but it was still cool when it was cool.
What's funny is that I actually thought you'd like that song more than you liked the Maddie Noise song.
The Maddie Noise song was more like normal. It was just it felt like any pop song kind of, you know, a simple little pop song. The other one was at least more interesting, even though it was kind of like a sleeper, you know. It's quite the snoozer.
Quite the snooze booze. All right, I got you.
Yeah.
What is your song of the week this week? 'Cause this is a very complicated name.
Dollars on my head with a Z.
No, what's the SOTW part?
Oh, song of the week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
so
my
you have
abbreviation.
Song of the week, then you have Joseph, then you have Song of the Week, then Gunna by Dollars on My Head.
Did I type the same thing twice? I might have a typo there. I can't see it, but
yeah.
I typed.
Okay, I was curious.
My song of the week is "Dollars on My Head" by Gunna featuring Young Thug. So that song is incredible. There's like I know we talked about vibe stuff last week. That song is that. That song is like pure that. Because Gunna, he just makes music that sounds like that. He's like a nav in that way. But there's another song on that album. His new album came out. It's called Wanna. No clue why. It's just his name is Gunna, and he named his album Wanna. There's a song on there called Wanna, and he just started referring to himself as Wanna. Honestly, I have no clue. But
when you say Wanna, is like the number one or like want to?
No, like it's his name, but with a W instead of a G. So WUNNA. Wanna. No clue. Okay. There's another song on there called MOTW, which is actually funny because song of the week SOTW, and it could have been MOTW, but that's short for Money on the Way, and that one's great. But there's one line in that song that really ruins it for me, and it's because I hate all lines like this, and I'm gonna swear, by the way, just for all the kids at home or whatever. But I'm referencing this line. So he says, "I know you ain't heard this. I've been dropping hits like bird shit." How are you gonna put that in a song and like sell it to me? You know what I mean? Like he says it all cool. He says it all cool. Like, heard this, I would have hit like birds. And he like does it, but he's still saying that phrase.
Yeah, about that line.
And I hate that.
I don't know if I want to commit to like my songs are like bird poop.
Yeah, it's like, why would you?
No one likes bird poop.
No one likes poop at all. There's so many rappers with poop lines, dude. It's awful. There's a song called
"Poop's Funny."
Yeah, but it like breaks the song. It's like, okay, you're rapping, and he made a poop reference. Like, J. Cole has one that's like really terrible that I could type it, but I refuse to say it. There's a Kodak Black one on this other dude's song named Boogie with a Hoodie. There's a line that's absolutely awful. There's a Travis Scott one on a song that technically is a leak, but like all these songs, and I can think of like terrible poop references from really famous rappers, and it's like really bad to me. But Money on the Way is a great song except for that line, so that's the only knock against it.
Doesn't Run the Jewels have a poop reference in their song, one of their songs?
Probably. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I remembered it because I remembered the line, and then I don't remember it now when I'm supposed to try to say it. It's like you rappers do baby shit.
Just basic boop. Yeah.
Yeah, just basic boop. Yeah, that one. That's a fun one. I like that one.
That one's okay.
Because that's just him dissing other rappers, which I think is fine.
But like the J. Cole one, for example, is something, but you couldn't you couldn't outsmart me. Think that you the shit, but you couldn't outfart me. Like,
no, dude, you're lying to me right now. That's not a real
look it up. Look it up. J. Cole, Jermaine Cole, one of like the top selling rappers of the 2010s. This man wrote that and said it.
Why would you ever say that somebody couldn't outfart you? All right, does he know there's a whole kink devoted to farting? There's definitely people who could outfart him, man. Come on.
That stuff ruins music for me, man. I can't. It's so funny out of context, but in the song, it's infuriating. Anyway,
I honestly don't even know if I should believe this or not. Like,
look it up.
I have to look it up.
That line is too ridiculous for me to make it up.
All right.
What's your song of the week, Yazeed?
My song of the week is "Plucky" by Morley.
By Morley?
Morley, Plucky, and the artist is Morly. Morley.
Okay. What's that about? Any poop lines?
As far as my memory goes, there are no poop lines, unfortunately.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a fun song for me.
Yeah.
It is indie pop with a lady singing. That's like the genre that I'm into.
Yeah.
And this is just more of that. But I enjoy it quite a bit. It's probably my favorite song of the last month.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy it. I only discovered it this past week, so it really skyrocketed up the charts, the Yazeed charts.
Nice. There's have you seen the website that lets you track your Spotify stats like year round, not just at the end of the year?
No.
There's well, there used to be this website. This is kind of unrelated, but speaking of you talking about things moving up the Yazeed charts, there's a it was called SpotifyStats.com or something. This dude, and he just had this little website, and someone actually linked it to me on Reddit in a related topic thread or whatever, and basically this dude just had a website where he called the Spotify API and just gave you all of your top songs of the week, month, the same APIs that they expose, basically just calling them for you. Kind of like a nice UI on it. And he kept adding more and more, and he has like his visit stats at the bottom of the page, and it was, in the tens of thousands for a while. Excuse me. And then one day, like, he kept adding more and more incrementally to the site, and it looked better and looked better. And then the views like skyrocketed to 200,000, 300,000, like those numbers. And then it was gone like the following week. But there's another, I'm guessing because it was either a cost related thing or something, but it was gone the next week. But this other guy,
that would really suck if it was like a per click thing and suddenly he was having to pay like $50 a month or something ridiculous out of nowhere.
I would guess probably more if it's hundreds
like
of thousands.
$500 a month.
Yeah, it's probably crazy money. But anyway, someone else does basically the same thing. There's no UI, there's no whatever. It just makes the list whatever API call and puts it into a HTML page, like no CSS.
I like that. Yeah.
And it's the domain is just someone's IP address. So like it's like real shady kind of looking, but it's you get the Spotify whatever. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's all good. If not, this dude has all my information, but it shows you all of your top songs. So there are times where I feel like this song was my song of the month, my song of the whatever, and I can go to that website and it kind of confirms it by showing like, oh, The Scots by Kid Cudi is number 1 on your top for the month or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. That's really cool. Maybe I'll check that out, because I know that's the one that tells you like genres and breaks down the individual songs on the playlists.
I think that's
like gives you enough nice like
right, yeah.
Like data analysis. What is it called? Like data science view or whatever of it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. It gives you like breakdowns, but their genre breakdowns like hilariously specific. It's like like you listen to like deep set chip tune.
Yeah.
You're like, what even is this? And when you try to look it up, it's like, good luck, sucker. You'll never find this anyway.
Yeah, I remember you showed me that website once. I don't know. I forgot the domain for that one too. And there's also the official Spotify one, like
their year-end one.
I think it's Spotify.me. No, it's like a year-round thing that'll show you no numbers, but just like your vibes are hip-hop this year or whatever. That kind of like very general kind of stats.
My vibes are indie pop.
Yeah, they are. But yeah, no, I don't know. I've talked about this, I think, maybe on this podcast before too, but I really wish Spotify gave you better statistics, better tracking of statistics.
Yeah, I do too. I have a question for you. If you wanted to sound as pretentious as possible,
Yeah.
just like you wanted to be like, let's say you go into a party, right, and you wanted no one to like you. What would
Done.
you tell them
Show up.
was your? Oh my god. What would you tell them is your favorite genre of music, in order to sound as pretentious as possible?
Post-experimental noise grunge.
Is that something you actually listen to, or are you just making that up?
I
Because
made
meant
that
something you actually listen to.
Oh. I don't know. I have a really hard time because like what's a genre? what's like a
I don't know why I believe that was a real genre.
I'm sure it is. I guess I have a hard time describing the genre of what I listen to, but if I wanted to like dig it up, I would say like extreme atmospheric yelp screeching. Yeah.
Damn,
Yeah.
That's incredible. Is that how you would describe Young Thug?
Yeah, Young Thug. Like, listen to Harambe, and that's basically that. Is vibacious a word?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Does it mean, like, having
Honestly,
vibes?
no, I
I imagine vibacious is having of vibes.
I don't think so. Because people will say that vivacious.
That's with a V.
Person.
I'm saying B, like vibacious.
No, that's not a word then.
Episode 31, vibacious. I like it.
Hell yeah. Genuinity and vivacious.
Yeah. We actually got like double the views on Genuinity than we did on any others, and I imagine part of it is because people Googling that word. Like, is it Genuinity? By the way, I Googled it. It's genuineness. I was right. It just doesn't sound right at all. Genuineness.
I still think that genuinity should be a word.
Well, keep saying it, and then people will Google it to see if it's right, and then they'll see episode 29 or whatever, Genuinity, and then they'll become fans, and then we'll get that Spotify deal.
Yeah, I'll just start using genuinity, and it's okay. If we have to go back to Spotify, that would be hilarious because we just recently went to YouTube.
Well, I mean, we still post to Spotify.
We do. I meant like if I think like Joe Rogan's like exclusivity deal is like he will no longer post them on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
that's a fun question. Would you ever do an exclusivity deal? I mean, this is very much like not ever in the realm of possibilities. I'm just curious. What do you think of that?
I think it kind of depends on a couple of things, right? So like, let's say like I really needed the money and they were like, would you do an exclusivity deal for like, I don't know, $5 million? I'd be like, yeah, 100%. If it was like, I'm okay financially still, like, I'd probably just say like, yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'd rather people be able to find this wherever. But if it came down, it's like when you asked me a lot, I think like on episode 2 or something, right? Like if somebody came through and was like, we'll buy Homegames because we think there's something really big here. And I was like, if I needed the money, yeah, I'd sell my part of Homegames. But as long as I don't need the money, I probably would hold on to it.
Yeah. I get that. I guess in a perfect world, I never need the money, but of course, we don't live in a perfect world.
Weird things come up all the time. And it's just like sometimes you gotta accept defeat or whatever.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Pie, whatever it's called.
This is still going, and it has not bankrupted us yet. So
that is true. So are you ready to move on to the rapid fire question?
I did not know we had some this week. Yeah,
I have exactly one.
Great.
Which is actually 2.
Oh, great.
And they are related, but not in the way that you think from me saying that they're related.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, so first question. If you had to get a QR code tattooed on your body, what would you want that QR code to link to?
Oh, Ooh, see, that's really tough because if it's an external source, I have to basically hope that they'll keep renewing their domain. Like, let's say I wanted to do Lemon Party. Then I would have to hope that Lemon Party is still up in like 30 years, you know? Otherwise, I have this embarrassing QR code tattooed on me.
Okay.
That just goes to a 404. So maybe I'm thinking, as long as I'm alive, I'll keep one domain alive. And that currently is joseph.zone. I own that, right? Mm-hmm. So if I keep renewing that, as long as I'm alive, I can always direct this QR code to that, and then if I decide to redirect to Lemon Party, when Lemon Party goes down, I can redirect to something else. It's kind of like my permanent intermediary, you know? Mm-hmm. So I would say joseph.zone and redirect to Lemon Party. Final answer.
Okay. I will tell you JC's answer because I think it's the funniest one, and then I'll tell you my answer. JC's answer is he would like to link to a website selling the Toys R Us page for a Bionicle that is now discontinued from sale.
So he's going full on, acknowledging that link won't be there forever.
Yeah, he 100% was like, I want it to link to a Bionicle that you couldn't buy anymore. When I asked him why, he's like, because I think it would really throw people off. And then I just started laughing because, it really threw me off. My answer was my Amazon wish list.
You could be like a streamer. Just be like, hey guys, just scan the QR code for if you ever want to support me or whatever.
Yeah.
Just put like $1,000 items.
They'd look at it and they'd be like, what is this guy all about? And it's like a tea set made entirely of glass. That's currently the only thing on my Amazon wish list. So,
nice.
And then the related question,
yeah.
And actually the originator of this question is, you know the Hitman from the Hitman series?
Yeah, bald guy.
Yeah. What do you think happens if like a grocery store scans his barcode? What do you think comes up?
I don't know. I imagine by the time that you can even scan his barcode, it's too late, you know? So I have a hard time imagining someone could even get that close to Agent 47. But, I don't know. I would just say death. My guess is death. Just die immediately.
I think JC said a banana. And...
Because he looks like a banana? I don't see that.
I don't know why. He said a banana. I'm gonna go with a suit. It rings up a suit. It's a suit.
Or maybe, have they ever talked about, like, his... I'm sure they have. I haven't played a lot of the Hitman games. But is he, like, a human? He is. He's like an orphan or something.
He either is an orphan or became an orphan because of them. Like, I don't know if he is an orphan or if maybe he was just taken away from his family and just turned into a super murderer person.
Because if it's possible to buy him, I would say him. But if he's a human, it's kind of like this iffy thing. But if he's like an alien, like, can you buy an alien? You know what I mean?
I don't know if you can buy... I don't know how the laws are worded, but I imagine if we ever find aliens and they are of sufficient intelligence / technological... Well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
We'll get an expert in here and we'll ask them that question whenever we have those kind of experts in our circle.
In the field?
Nope. In the field of selling artificial, or not artificial, of alien life.
Extraterrestrial life. You could probably buy him. Effectively, that's what the people who like own him do. They just like rent him out to go kill people.
Damn, that's deep. But you're not wrong. All of our employers just own us, bro.
I think it's a little bit different when they've kidnapped you / stolen you from an orphanage or whatever his background is versus like you fill in a resume and interview.
I'm sure
he never interviewed.
You don't know that. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea what the Agent 47
Can you imagine what the interview process would be like for like a 3-year-old? And they're like, would you like to kill people professionally? And the 3-year-old's like, I don't know what that means. And they're just like, all right.
It'd be a way more interesting cutscene than whatever they actually have in the game. I would like to see a well-produced version of that.
I don't think I've ever played a Hitman game. If I'm totally off of the lore, I'm so sorry.
They're not bad. I vaguely remember them doing the backstory thing about him in one of the games I played, like Absolution on PS3, and I think one of the other ones. There's one I remember where like at Mardi Gras killing everybody. It's a cool series. It's like a puzzle game, really. It's not really a shooting game.
I only know it because Donkey has a video where he just repeatedly kills people by throwing a can of tomato sauce at them.
Yeah.
And then he says something like, I think that's the origin of his like spaghetti and meatballs thing.
Mm. Excuse me. Yeah, you should play Hitman. They're pretty good.
I think I own one of them.
Probably.
But anyway, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's all for me.
That's all for me as well.
Wow, we did the whole podcast
in an hour and 25 minutes.
Very nice.
But not for our listeners.
Why? Why not for our listeners?
Because you're going to have to cut a little bit out.
Where?
At the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So like an hour 23? I'm going to guess hour 23. Final edit.mp3.
Ooh. If it's not an hour and 23, I'm going to call you out on the next episode.
If it's not an hour and 23, I'll just cut out more of you talking. I'll just...
All right, that's going to be all for us. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
You'll see us next week. I don't know why I keep messing this up.
We won't see you next week, but you will see us next week if you watch next week or hear us. You'll hear us next week.
Yeah,
we'll be around next week.
We'll be available. All right, bye bye.